Here we are. Look at this. It's whatever it is, 7 o'clock in the evening in state-controlled Britain, but we're still free and we're still fighting for the right to eat meat, aren't we? So here we are at Carnivore Team GB, and we've got Ben Hunt, Richard Smith, Lee Copus, and the Greek goddess Sylvie, who has been press ganged into this after a brilliant weekend at the Carnival conference. For those people that weren't there, what's wrong? What happened? You just have to make sure you're there next year. If I sound a bit like I don't know what's going on, it's because I don't know what's going on. I was waiting for Jonathan, wasn't sure if he'd be here or not, but it'd be great if he could pop in. But anyway, if he isn't, we've got such a screen full of people. Let's go round in sort of the order that it's on the screen for me, and just ask each one of you to. So we'll start with Ben. Sort of describe if anything interesting's happened over the last weekend or anything's on the horizon.
I don't know really. I was away at a conference. Took up the whole weekend. So yeah, what can I say? It was brilliant. It started off amazingly well with Richard kicking off, and every talk I would say I learned something, including my own. Every talk I learned something from. We had 75 of our carnivore tribe there. It was the people that made the weekend. Honestly, I just had the best time. It was fantastic. Yeah. I think I've just about come down from it now, so I can talk rationally about it. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. Cliff College did an amazing job. They put on some really, really good food. But yeah, wonderful people. That's the main thing. And it's about time we had a carnivore conference in this country.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, Ben, you're saying that you're just about on the come down. I think, yeah, I'm still riding those ripples from all of those pebbles, from those ponds that we've thrown them into. Wow, what an absolutely incredible weekend. It's blown me away how the community of people have come together. So it's, you know, we had that little get together, didn't we? The evening after the second day, and some of the other attendees, the guests were there, and we were all chatting, mixing and mingling. And the pure passion and love that came from these people in regards to, you know, their views on the event. And what many of them said was that they would have given up their spare time to help us organize and build the stage and do all these sorts of things, because lots of work went into this prior to the event. And you sort of take it with a pinch of salt. You sort of Celtic salt. And you sort of expect that, you know, people just say these things but don't mean them. But the next day, these people were there helping us take the stage down and put these things. They give up their spare time to come and help us move these things away and clean up the event. And it was in that moment for me that I realized that we've built something special. This is more than just a conference. You know, this is a community. This is a tribe. And that's a feeling that is still with me now. And I'm going to be riding that feeling for quite some time. I've spoken to a number of people since the event, including the film crew who were there. I won't go into too much detail about this, but I was speaking to John just before I came on the call. And the things that he came back and said to me, I mean, he was blown away by the comments made during the interviews and people's feedback. People were saying that this has been the best weekend of their life. I mean, that's a big statement. What a statement to make. Best weekend of my life. What more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? Fantastic speakers, world-leading speakers, incredible guests. We did not segregate the speakers from the guests. We're all one tribe. There was no VIP section. We're all one and the same. We mixed over lunch. You know, I was going to say we broke bread together, but we did not do that. We broke some crackling. I'm still blown away, and I'm still riding the high from that event, and I should imagine I'll continue to do so for the rest of the week. What about you, Sylvia?
Well, we've got Lee next. We're going round.
Right. Okay. So my screen's moved. Apologies. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. What a success. You know, I was obviously a little nervous because I'd never publicly spoke before. But it was just a great opportunity for me, not only to speak, but to meet you guys. And like you said, everybody else. It was like, and I sort of said this to you, Stephen, you know, you were alluding to your stand-up comedy days. Well, it wasn't like I was going up there, any of us had to go up there and win the audience. It's like we were already family and friends kind of thing. And we all got on very well, and we're just all open-minded, there to learn and to help and to support each other. And that's what I actually found was sort of so moving, really. Everybody was so supportive. You know, even people, I think I spoke to probably 95% of the people. There's probably 5% I didn't quite get to, but they'd stick their thumb up and give me a wink or give me a hug, just you know, or just a thank you, and that was it. And then they'd scurry away, and you think, oh wait, come on, we'll talk. But you know, everybody was so sort of humble and grateful, and I think it was just, yeah, like you say, a proper community, and one to remember. I'm still buzzing, so fantastic.
Sylvie?
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm still buzzing. Definitely, it was an incredible event that we've managed to put together. It was fantastic, and the amount of feedback I've already had from customers that have who were at the event, who've rang me up just to tell me that they enjoyed it, that they thought it was amazing, and that the people they met, they feel that they've made some really good friends for life, and the people are already arranging to meet up off the back of this one weekend. So I think that when we had an initial meeting about setting up the event, one of the big things we wanted to do was create a community where people really could pull together, and it seems like that's exactly what we've done, which I'm really pleased about, and I'm really glad that everyone's enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm exhausted still, but I am, yeah, definitely very elated with how it went.
Jonathan?
Hello guys, it's me. Apologies for the lateness. I fell over in the shower, which you don't expect from a 29-year-old man, but yeah, I'm completely fine. It just meant I had to do a bit of a clean up with my razor, basically, which was not too much fun. Anyway, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I was messaging the guys today, sincerely thanking Richard, Sylvie, and Ben for the brilliant organisation, their hospitality to myself, everyone else on the panel, and all the guests there was absolutely phenomenal. I don't think there was a single moment where anyone on this panel right now was sat on their own just waiting for someone to approach them. It's very inclusive, as you guys have mentioned. It is integrated perfectly. The weather's pretty good. We spent a lot of time indoors, but there was just so much to do and so many people to speak to that, had it been outdoors, we'd have all been burnt probably and not had much fun. Also raining a little bit, which wasn't that great, but we can hope for better weather next year. In terms of like the talks, I thought the talks were very impressive. And Lee made a good point to I think it was Ben or something, maybe in the canteen when we're there or in the audience. And he's saying, it's funny, all of our speeches, our sort of seminars and talks, presentations, all kind of matched our personalities. So you can almost imagine each of us here in our like Sunday or Monday or Tuesday night Q&As answering the questions, how we approach things, our viewpoints and things, and it was exactly how you'd think, which means we pretty much delivered on our promise. I think in terms of looking to the future, I'm really hoping that more put on more frequently. The venue was absolutely stunning. It reminded me of university when I was at Bath Spa. It was kind of like in a farm setting, kind of, well, like a rural kind of setting, lots of old buildings. I felt right at home. I had a nice lot of goodies as well, got given a load of free stuff. And if you like me, you like free stuff, so I took a load of free stuff. Richard was more than generous with his time, his energy, and I know the rest of the guys were too as well. But it was nice to also consolidate some strong friendships with you guys. There's a few other people that aren't on the stream now because they've got other stuff to do, but it's nice to also hear Heather Foley's story in particular, and meet Dr. Abs face to face. He's a guy that's all over the shop. I think within the next week or so, he's probably in like 5 or 6 different countries, which is mad. I remember him texting us in the group chat saying, oh, just in Switzerland or whatever it was. Oh, like 3 hours later, oh, I've just arrived at the airport. He comes up and he runs over to the tent where he thinks it is, because you think it's like in this atrium tent thing outside. I think Sylvia or someone else had to go find him, which was pretty entertaining, but it went so well. We all did very useful talks, very practical talks that people can take stuff away from. And everyone, obviously, that attended can have the presentation for themselves. We all had different slideshows, different presentations, different ways of promoting and explaining what we did. I obviously had a slideshow that was mocked up in about 10 minutes. That's a lie. Took a little bit longer, but I didn't need more slides. Put it that way, I rambled like hell for about an hour, about 10%, maybe 5% of what I wanted to speak about. So you can imagine how that went down. But the audience had a good few bunch of laughs, and maybe if we get time, I might put up a clip on here of the presentation, like a quick 10-20 second clip. And if anyone else has any that they want to share to the screen, obviously, please feel free to. But yeah, I mean, who's hosting this today? I'm guessing it's you, Stephen?
Well, Jonathan, you do such a good job. I'm happy for you to take over. I have no, what's the word? I'm not precious
Qualms.
in any way.
Okay, cool. So I'm assuming you guys have been through the super chats, but I will just flick them up very quickly. So thank you very much, Rob, for the super chat. Much appreciated. We kind of elaborated on the Carnival conference and what happened, I believe, already. But any particular questions you have about it, what you want to know for next year, what is and isn't there, have a look. And obviously, the food was absolutely smashing. Top tier. When people say that, they usually mean, oh, it's pretty good. No, it is top tier. It's excellent. And if Carnival Muscle goes to a conference and he says the food was good, the food was probably pretty good. Because I'm a very fussy eater, very fussy. Next we've got Sheena, a new coaching client of mine, actually. So thank you very much for becoming a channel member. Look at that passive income, guys. Carnivore Diamond, Sheena, joining as channel member. Much appreciated. Also, being with Cosmos Live for 20 euros. That's a lot of money. That's about 15 squid. So much appreciated.
On that topic, Jonathan, Rob's also asking what kind of food did you have at the conference? While we're on the subject, do you want to run through what stuck out in your teeth?
Sure. Sure. I mean, on the first night, on the Friday night, we all had a separate kind of dinner, which we you sort of pay a little extra fee for, but it was well worth it. My brother and I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's food there for everyone. The anchovy butter tallow thing was really good. I think it's anchovy and dripping, perhaps. But the Saturday and Sunday, the food was bang on. I couldn't ask for anything better. The quality was phenomenal. Remember, Ben, you're standing there to the side, you're asking me about like different ingredients and things, and telling me about sourcing and things. And I was like, you could not have done any better job. And the same with Rich and Sylvia. I know they're driving around town like a bunch of loons trying to get, I think it's ox heart or lamb liver or something for hours around. And these places, guys, and these Peak District places, they're not like, oh, there's a butcher shop 10 minutes down the road. You're travelling around all these country lanes just to find one place that does a reputable source, farm level, farm grade sort of, animal products. But yeah, I thought it was smashing. The thing that stood out to me, there was lots of things. I mean, I'd like to have another cup of that beef broth with all that dripping and stuff in it. Obviously, being close to a bodybuilding competition, I can't be like drowning myself in fat. But I did have a cup of it, and it was really good. And I love that sort of thing. True and simple, bit of salt probably, a bit of ground up beef carcass, cow carcass, all that sort of stuff. But it was absolutely cracking. Yeah, I mean, what did you enjoy the most?
No, my highlight was actually the ox tongue. I thought that was incredible. It was like just really smooth steak. I thought that was fun. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but everyone got the chance to try a bit of heart, a bit of tongue, lamb burgers and stuff. It was fantastic. I could eat like that every day. Amazing. Yeah,
the lamb burgers were unbelievable. I don't know what was special about them because they just seemed like lamb burgers, but they did taste really good. So there's something going on behind the scenes there when you can't quite work out or put your finger on what it was. But thank you very much, Sheena, for the super chats. Much appreciated. If you guys are comfortable, shall we answer some questions? Because we've got 2 or 3 in the chat already. Got one from Paul. Brilliant weekend, guys. Thank you all. Still buzzing. Very good question. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. Next we got Ribeye Rob. What kind of food did you have at the conference? Yeah, we've done that one, I think. We might have a question. Where's the best place to buy meat, and is grass-fed the right way to go? At the moment, I'm doing supermarket meat, but should I look into grass-fed? I might actually pass the baton on to Sylvia. She's come to answering this one just because she's bothered to join in her Tuesday evening, and she's a initial guest here, so it's her first time on air. So I'd definitely like to hear her perspective on things, and I appreciate you joining tonight. So, what do you think about grass-fed meat? Do you ever go to get grass-fed meat, or do you just eat whatever? Yeah. Yeah,
I definitely go to get grass-fed meat. I do think there is definite benefit for it. not just for your health, but also for the land as well, because we obviously need animals out on the land to support it and support the soil structure. And the mineral content that you get in the soil that has had animal feces on it is completely different from mineral structure that you would get anywhere else. So yeah, I definitely think grass-fed is important. Obviously, there is a sort of a price implication for that. So any meat is better than no meat. But yeah, ideally grass-fed, go to a farm. Treeway Farm, which were at the event this weekend, are fantastic. I've been talking to Kate this morning, and they post out all over the country. They do lamb and beef. They are predominantly beef, but they do lamb as well. And they do, I've forgotten what it's called. Rich, can you remember?
Yeah, it's the older lamb. Is it
The older lamb,
Hogget?
yeah, there was a name. It was Hogget, yeah.
Hogget is 1 to 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's mutton after that, and it's lamb before that.
Yeah, so it's Hogget, and it sounded really good. I've not had it before, so I've put an order in already because I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I think Treeway Farm is a good call.
Yeah, I've just posted the link as it happens. Yeah. I was well blown away because Kate, one of the owners from Treeway, came and as a guest kindly sponsored the event with supplying their beef dripping also, but she took part in some of the Q&As and went into some detail in regards to what actually is grass-fed and how some companies get around. And Lee knows a little bit about this, and I know you do also, Sylvie, but grass-fed doesn't always mean that it's purely grass-fed. And she'd probably be an interesting guest to get on one evening and to go through this in more detail. But one of the things that she does stock is that Hogget, which is older lamb. Older lamb basically means it's a sheep and it's more nutrient dense. So not only are you getting the higher omega-3 ratio in the fat, the amino profile, the vitamin mineral profile are all superior as the animal gets older. But these are very difficult to find. It's, if you go to your local supermarket or if you go to your local butcher, very few are going to be stocking this. So yeah, I also will be putting an order in with Kate shortly for some Hogget.
Yeah, I think what was interesting is that she was saying that certainly in the UK, something can be called grass-fed and also even like regenerative as well. She was saying that these terms are kind of being co-opted by corporate food interests, and it's really diluting. Like you can't really trust the word organic anymore. It doesn't mean a thing, really. But they were saying that an animal can have been given, like, if more than half of its diet in its lifetime has been grass or haylage, silage, then you can technically call it grass-fed when it hasn't been. So, yeah, they're a member of Pasture for Life, PFL, who have very strict requirements. The animal must have been fed on the product of pasture, which can include silage over winter for its life, and that's it. So if you want truly grass-fed, go PFL in the UK is the way to go.
Yeah, spot on.
Excellent stuff. We'll move on to the next question. Now, Sheena did leave quite a few super chats. I'm going to answer her one. I saw a video saying if you eat beef, salt is not necessary. Is that true? This is a Richard question. I can see him. I can see his lips purse. There we go. Go on, Rich.
Look, I believe that we can get everything that we need, not just to survive, but thrive from our diet. I own a supplement company, and I probably talk myself out of many sales because of this. But everybody's different. If you are sedentary and you eat your animal proteins, particularly your beef and lamb, then you will get lots of potassium in particular, because beef is a fantastic source. Animal proteins are a fantastic source of potassium. And if we look as nature intended, potassium predominates around 4 times higher than potassium, but it also contains everything else that we need in the form of magnesium and calcium and so on and so forth.
So sorry, Rich, potassium is 4 times more than sodium, yeah?
Sorry, yes. Did I not say that? No?
No, it's a potassium. Sorry.
That's the weekend. This is, the fallout from the weekend. Potassium is 4 times higher than sodium, as nature intended. But we can obtain lots of this. And this was a question that was asked at the event in regards to electrolyte balance and so on and so forth. What we don't do these days, which we would have done through our evolutionary period, is we don't eat the whole animal. We don't eat the organ meats. We don't drink the blood. We don't crush up the bones. We don't eat the bone marrow. We don't eat the knuckles off the bone. We don't consume the connective tissue. This is where a lot of these minerals are found. We don't make bone broth. Many of us don't make bone broth. So yes, we can obtain everything that we need purely through diet. But what I tend to find, I'm highly active. Jonathan is probably the same. I know Stephen does a lot of training. Ben, I know you start doing, free sort of weights and press ups and so on and so forth. And I know Sean Baker is a big advocate of supplementing with things like electrolytes, because the volume of workouts that he does means his requirement for more electrolytes is higher. I find that I thrive on supplementation of electrolytes, but it doesn't mean that you can't obtain all from beef. But everything should start with diet. This is the foundation. We start with diet. We obtain all of these vitamins and minerals, and then we add in the supplements should we require to do so. Supplementation can be preferenced early in the journey. And the reason for this is that as insulin drops, we lose sodium from 4 points in the nephrons in the kidneys. And we can go into which point and which percentage if we want to, but it's probably not necessary. But in order to combat this, we can supplement in the short term, and this can overcome what's known as the keto flu, which is why many people start the journey and do not maintain, because they feel awful, they feel fatigued, they feel faint, they feel lightheaded, and it's to do with this initial electrolyte imbalance. But as you adjust, as you maintain the lifestyle, as you stick to the journey, then maybe the requirement for said supplementation can be reduced. Our good friend Anthony Chafee, who kindly joined us on the Sunday, he does not use electrolytes. He doesn't need to. So we are all different. But understand that electrolytes are natural. So they are natural compounds, and all we've done is taken these and put them into an easy to consume form in order to benefit additionally should that requirement be there. But yes, animal proteins quite literally contain everything that we need, not just to survive, but thrive.
Yeah, and Anthony also rarely salts his meat as well. Worth having. I mean, some people might say you add more salt to your meat early on in the stage, and then maybe you just get to a point where your body says, "Don't fancy any more salt." I mean, to what extent do you guys trust that norm, that body response? Does the idea of salt feel good, or am I just kind of going off it?
Yeah,
so, a lot of people are really. We're used to having over-salted fake food, aren't we? As well, that's part of the hyperpalatability.
Yeah, this is a question that I get asked an awful lot in regards to the consumption of electrolytes from a supplement form. Once you've adapted and gone through that transition, we seem to upregulate all of these pathways within the body that allow us to sense changes. So, for example, if one of us were to consume a compound, for me, for example, if I consume pepper, my body explodes in a rash. And I know about it straight away. If I consume anything with vegetable oils in, or anything with wheat germ agglutinin, my body tells me immediately. And many think that living the lifestyle has made them intolerant to these compounds. It hasn't made you intolerant. It's just allowed those pathways to become increased. So it's called an exaggerated response. And it's the way that we should be. And you can look at it in the same way as alcohol. So the first time we drink alcohol, a bottle of beer or a glass of wine, we become lightheaded, we become tipsy. But the next time we can drink twice as many, we can drink 2 glasses or 2 bottles, and it builds and so on and so forth. Even though we don't feel as drunk, it doesn't mean that damage isn't being caused to the body. And this is the same with these toxins. They just become accustomed. So as we gravitate into the journey and we've gone through the process of healing and repairing, now the body is allowed to increase these receptors and these pathways, and the body's highly attuned. So what I find, and what I find with lots of clients that I work with, is that you salt to taste. So the body's highly intuitive. You can't overdo salt. You can technically, but the body is so highly attuned that when you start to consume too much, your body tells you that it's had enough and it doesn't want any more. And this is how some days you salt your meal a lot, and other days I don't salt at all. So I do this intuitively, and it's the same when it comes to drinking the electrolyte supplement. For me, for example, some days I drink lots, and other days I drink very little, but I do it intuitively. The body is highly attuned as you adapt on this journey. The body's an incredible machine.
It's interesting, actually, because I obviously don't have any part of my colon. That's where you typically reabsorb sodium, etc. And that's encouraged as well. The stoma nurses encourage, salt, salt, salt. And so when I went carnivore, I think most people would think, whoa, that's like super heavy. Interestingly, over the last few months, I've realized I'm probably salting my meat half as much when I cook it, and I add no more. I usually used to always add molten salt. I don't want it. So something's happening to me, even without a colon, and I'm using less salt, not a lot at all, and I feel great. So there you go, listening to my body.
Yeah, I'm going to have to mute someone because they're fudding. Hold on, sorry. There we go. It's funny with the salt intake thing. You compare me and Richard. We're both, we sweat a bit, we do a bit of activity. He does a lot more than me. He's using up way too much fuel. So he'll have a different requirement to me in terms of electrolytes. Despite our different body mass, I'm about a good few inches taller than Richard, a bit heavier as well. But we both have very different requirements because it's scaled up and down. So when I started the carnivore diet, I was eating very lean and I had a lot of salt. Now, if I now do a carnivore diet and say I had a higher fat intake in relationship to protein, I find that I don't actually need as much salt. My body tends to hold on to things a bit better. I'd suggest that that's probably because the body's got a less of a stressed signal. Anytime my fat's been low, I've obviously been cutting for competition. You cut in, your body's stressed out, more elevated cortisol for a long period of time. You're probably awake for a bit longer because you're not sleeping as well, because you've not got your body in that point where it's like, okay, I'm in that homeostatic safe range where I've got sleep, I've got food, got water, I've got everything I need. So I found my hydration state has changed significantly over the few years that I've been training. If I was in a position where I wasn't cutting for a bodybuilding competition, like losing fat, more fat in my diet, even a bit less protein perhaps, I probably wouldn't have to drink that much at all. What I was finding is I was barely drinking between meals, probably drinking about 1.5 to 2 litres per day. Now I'm drinking about 4 or 5, but I'm also adding in, because of that surplus of water, or sufficiency of water now, based on my body's current state, I'm actually adding in a lot more keto pro electrolytes. I'm doing anywhere between about 2 and 3 scoops per day, whereas when I started it was more of like a half a scoop in my coffee or something before the gym, something like that. It wasn't too drastic or severe, but your body does sort of adjust over time. That's the thing. So there's no hard and fast rules, as in, people always ask, it's like, oh, how much potassium should I have per day? Well, you look at the food guidelines, that's saying something of the order of, I think, 4.5, 5 grams per day or something of pure potassium. That's quite hard to get to unless you're eating a load of potatoes and quite a lot of meat, actually. Now, if you're eating different animal food sources, your diet is consisting of perhaps lots of eggs, lots of dairy. Now, those things aren't particularly that high in potassium compared to meat. So you're going to find that you're probably going to need more salt or more potassium to hold on to electrolytes a bit better. So all these things, it's all these moving mechanisms, all these levers, you can't know what to do until you tried it. And a good point that Rich is always good to explain and expand upon, which is very responsive in my opinion, is that you don't have to have a whole scoop. You could do half a scoop or quarter of a scoop of electrolytes. You might have 0 scoops one day, and perhaps it's a cool day, you're not sweating as much. So don't try and get into this hard and fast, how many grams of this? I work with so many neurotic young men that are just trying to calculate every damn bloody thing that goes in their mouth. And not to the point that I do. I mean, they're actually trying to weigh out the milligram of potassium. They're actually getting capsules, opening them. The 199 milligram capsules. Oh, that's about half. That's about 50. I'm going to put 49.5 just in case. People are out there like that, guys. It's not that serious. If your body was that much of a delicate flower, you probably would not be here now. So trust your body, trust your instincts, and definitely get some Keto Pro electrolytes for good measure. Have a tub in your pantry or something. Definitely worthwhile. Should we move on to the next question? Does anyone else want to add anything? It's completely up to you guys. I want to say hello to Heather as well, actually. Heather wants to pop on.
Hi.
Very good, very good. Don't need many more words than that. It works. Okay.
Is that
Okay, so is low salt a good way to incorporate potassium into this way of eating? No, but if you're in a pinch, pardon pun, maybe. This is another Richard, but I'll be looking at the caking agents. I'll be looking at the ratio of it, and it's not a natural form. Like these things are usually something like 50-50 between sodium and potassium, I think. Sometimes a bit less, a little bit here and there, but I don't know if that's helpful for the body because you're taking in a large dose of two elements, but you're emitting lots of others. Salt you can get away with a little bit. Your body is quite robust in terms of that, but if you have 20 grams of potassium, guys, most people that are listening to this will probably have a heart attack and die on the spot within probably minutes. So that's why you should be careful with these supplements. Don't start putting things into capsules and I don't know, 20 grams of low salt. It's not a good idea in my opinion. But does anyone else have any take on low salt? So it's like a salt substitute. Yeah.
Look, it's ratios are incredibly important. What is also important is the source of these ingredients. Sodium depletes potassium. So if you are looking to increase potassium, by the way, then you don't want to overconsume the sodium with it, although a 1-to-1 isn't a bad ratio in regards to supplement form. But the source is really important. And again, the potassium, we are told, this is what is given to people who were given the lethal injection. It's potassium chloride. And again, different types of potassium are very different things, and they work differently within the body. And just circling back to a point you just made as well, Jonathan, in regards to like the sweating, it goes a lot deeper than this. And as you know, and just for the benefit of people who are listening, these are minerals that are used in the production of ATP. It's part of the electron transport chain. We use these minerals to create energy. In fact, we can't create energy without them. We cannot physically move our muscles without electrolytes. So they are essential. And it is one of the main reasons that people struggle with it. In regards to low salt being a good alternative, look, it's whatever you can get your hands on. Coming back to the meat question, is grass-fed better than the non-grass-fed? Yes, is the answer. But then, and again, we covered this the weekend at the Carnival conference, any meat is better than no meat. So it is very much an individual thing. If you are looking for quality salt, Celtic sea salt is the best in my opinion. Sylvie sells this. She's the producer or the distributor for a batch tested microplastic free Celtic sea salt. It's the only one that I use. I stock that salt and I also stock pink Himalayan. My prices are a little bit more expensive than Sylvie's, but pink Himalayan is non-organic, so not all salts are the same. Pink Himalayan comes from the hills. It hasn't gone through an organism. It hasn't been ingested. It hasn't been, that's the one, yeah. It hasn't been, it hasn't gone through a living organism. It's not organic. So these are very different things. That said, if you can only get hold of pink salt, then that is by far better than table salt. So there's tiers to this, these incremental tiers. But that, in my opinion, is the best Celtic sea salt on the market. That's the only one that I add besides the electrolytes now, personally.
Can I just add for accuracy that low salt is 66% potassium chloride and 33% sodium chloride. We were saying it was one.
So about half. So about half.
Yeah.
It depends how big your halves are. That's the thing. Yeah. I was going to say something. It's what you call it, I believe, a DOP, that kind of salt. I believe it means something like designation of protected origin. So that means it's harvested in a certain way. It's been refined and created in such a way that is cleaner and specific to a certain geographic location. So you can find that on some things, guys, like Gouda. If you get like a good quality cheese, it will have this little blue and yellow kind of circle on it, like a badge, and it will say DOP or something like that on it. But that's what you look out for. But if you're buying any sort of high quality refined, extra special product, that's what you want to make sure is on the label. If it's not got light on it, it's just a generic, basically. Yeah. Should we move on to the next question, unless anyone's got anything to add at all? Okay. Just got one from Matthew. What was your favourite food at the Carnival conference? I think we've all said this, but if we go through once, I'll just say I liked the beef brisket, obviously. That was good for me. The rest of it was also very good. What about you, Ben? What about you, Heather?
Also, sorry, I know I've already mentioned the ox tongue, but did anyone have that belly pork on Sunday? That was lush. Yeah.
My favourite was the beef broth. I loved the beef broth. I had a heck of a lot of fat in that drink. I just loved it.
You were going up and getting it by the cup.
Yeah, she gave me 2 at a time. She was very nice to me. I was quite close to that.
Like dunking the lamb burgers in the beef broth, that was nice. And the oxtail soup. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, the tongue for me. The tongue. Yeah, that won everything hands down. I was lucky enough to have a nice tender piece. I think it was the nicest thing that I've ever tasted. So that's going to be a regular on my plate moving forward.
Brine it. It's incredible when you brine it. Seriously. If you have it brined, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, yeah. It's great.
Salivating.
Yeah, I've never had tongue before. So the tongue for me, again, I've not had it. And I had a really nice tender piece as well. I wasn't quite sure what to expect with it. But yeah, it was really good. But I'll give a go brining it.
Steve?
Yeah, I thought the lamb. I thought the lamb hearts, but I tell you why I thought the lamb hearts. Not because it was the tastiest thing, but I was a bit sad, and I saw a bunch of students at the serving hatch, and I went over and did a little survey, and asked them what was being served, what surprised them the most, and how tasty it was. And they all pretty much said heart. They were really surprised. One person was going, oh, I couldn't do it, but they all forced me to do it. And it was actually not bad. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's a really good budget meat. You can get a lamb heart for about £1, and it's you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I'm just talking to people because we had a few questions, didn't we? We did nearly an hour on can you do carnivore on a budget, and I was thinking, well, there you go. There's an example, lamb heart, and even people that are not even carnivore were enjoying it. So I thought that was good to have it served.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I had all the organ meat and all the weird, interesting things that are there. And I say weird just because people watching this probably don't actually eat it anyway. But it was actually a nice treat. I'm probably capped out for liver now. I think I had about 1.5 pounds of liver over 2 days. So it's not something I'm actually used to at all. But I did definitely enjoy what I had. But I'm going to look at the next super chat now. I believe it's from Rob. This directed at Richard, so I don't think it's a question, but it says, I just finished watching both your interviews with Anko at Verma. Lots of brilliant information. I'll have to check that one out. Richard, should I check it out, Richard? Or should I just ignore it?
Yes, check it out. It's Anko is fantastic. He's a doctor working in India, doing some incredible things. He's implemented changes on his ward, so he doesn't allow his staff to bring any crap in. So they only eat real food. The patient's not allowed to bring any crap in either. So he's making real changes. Real nice guy, all the time in the world for him. 2 incredible podcasts. The second was on how parents normalize junk food and what causes us to do this and why we shouldn't. So I mean, I'm hoping that they'll get the views that they deserve because Anko is absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't seen those interviews, get out and watch them now. Get some views up on my YouTube channel because I'm struggling compared to the rest of these superheroes.
Yeah, you're basically a child, Richard. You're a child in this game. But you've managed to achieve a lot in the few months that you have been doing this. And I know, the thing about Richard, guys, is he does not have the time or energy or like the hours in the day to literally go through and make all these flashy videos that the rest of us make. He can make an interview, but he's working all day, every single day. So you have to respect his time. But he does have a channel that has all the potential in the world to grow, and it will be bigger than mine in probably 2 months' time. It would not be surprised.
I overtook you recently, and then you've just cruised past me effortlessly, and you've gone away far, far into the distance. So
I picked up some tips from Lee. Yeah, we'll be neck and neck for a while. It's good to have friendly competition. I like competition.
Love it.
There we go. A nice one. So if you actually got something really quickly, I'm going to put on the screen, so please don't add to it because I just want to get through the rest of the questions. I've been carnivore for 8 months and I'm slowly seeing benefit, but not as much as I had hoped. Where can I go or who can I speak to help get the situation, as I have a lot I feel is not healing? Well, I believe 1, 2, 3, 4. Most of us on this panel do provide consultations. You can find our links for websites I'm compositionconsultant.com, also Carnival Muscle. We've got Keto Pro, which is Richard, which is the man on the bottom right, with Keto Pro in the background. You can find him at his website. He offers consultations. Coach Stephen, I might remove this just so you guys can see it. We go. Coach Stephen, you can find him at the web link there, which is the ukcarnivore.com. He offers consultations. Ben Hunt from the Substack, and I believe Sylvie might also as well. If you want to chat to Lee, leave him a comment below his videos. He may or may not help you. It does depend what it is.
I think Heather does
and Heather, sorry. Also. And Heather thoroughly in the background there, this lovely lady, she does consultations as well. So just find out for each of us, go back, scroll through the video to remind yourselves of our names. See who's got the best background to suit you and your needs. And we'll move on to the next question right now. So this one is very confusing. Ketones reduce blood pH. How can fasting ketones at 5 millimole be safe? It is. While type 1 diabetes can be in acidosis already at 3 millimole. That's a perfectly good question, and I think it is a Stephen answer.
Yes, and it's pretty straightforward. It's more complicated on there than it actually is. So if you're not struggling with insulin production, 5 millimoles of fasting ketosis or ketones is not a problem, because your insulin production and your glucose metabolism is okay. When you're type 1 diabetic, you will really struggle because you are introducing insulin into your system. Your system is not producing it correctly in relation to the demand. That it's really that simple. So you could say that about anything. You know, a bolus of glucose, most people could deal with that easier than someone that's type 1. I mean, that's all it is. It is a good question. I mean, you are looking at ketones potentially changing the pH of blood, but it is so tightly regulated. That's not really the issue. The issue is the unregulation of ketones in relation to the insulin that's being produced. So, yeah, it makes sense, the question, but as soon as you realize that you're actually talking about something that is working under the regulation of insulin, and if you can't produce insulin naturally, then that type 1 diabetic would have to inject, and it's not that simple. So yeah, good question, but possibly nothing we can do with the answer other than tell you that's the sense behind it.
Yeah, can I just chime in quickly, because I was speaking to one of my butchers, and he has type 1 diabetes. He's had ketoacidosis, and another way I would explain it is that if you can't produce the insulin to clear the blood of the sugar doesn't go into the cells. The body thinks it's starving and then ramps up ketone bodies. That's what's going on there. And so you just don't need to worry about it, really. You won't even achieve it if you tried to fast for as long as you could, check your keto. You're never going to have a problem. So it's just a problem mostly, high blood glucose, no insulin. That's it.
Yeah, the body regulates itself really well is the bottom line. And I do like both your answers for sure. Definitely. So the next question is from Tellboy. Do you think that if the gut lining heals dairy, casein? Okay, I'm going to reword this. Does casein or lactose in dairy cause histamine reactions or lactose reactions, intolerances, and can they resolve completely, and how long can it take? Sylvie?
Oh, you muted.
Yeah, sorry, unmuted now. I'm struggling to understand the question, if I'm honest, because it's worded kind of backwards, because you've just reworded it much better. So am I right in thinking that can dairy heal the gut and stop the histamine reactions, or do they cause the histamine reactions?
They've developed, by sounds of it, already have an intolerance to it. They're wondering, if I get rid of it, is there a way I can add it back in at some point, and how long would it take?
It depends how well you heal the gut lining. Some people can heal the gut lining to a point where they can tolerate a small amount, but it's not something they'd be able to have in a large amount at any point, really, because the predisposition is still there. So it's a how long is a piece of string kind of answer, really.
Yeah, I go along with that. What I tend to find with casein in particular is casein does cause intestinal permeability. It tends to cause less problems if you have healed the gut. So hence, if you've been carnivore and you've removed the wheat germ agglutinin, phytohemagglutinin, so on and so forth, you're not drinking alcohol or consuming prescription drugs. The gut is healed. You can introduce these casein-containing compounds such as cheese and A2 milk and so on and so forth. But I've spoken to many people. Podrick, who was kind enough to come to the event the weekend, he was a lover of A2 dairy for long periods of time, particularly from raw milk. And what he found is when he was consuming too much every day for prolonged periods of time, he'd start to suffer with intestinal permeability again. So now that his gut is in very good condition, it's something that he can consume now and again as a treat, if you like, but it's one of those things that he can't overconsume. That said, what I would add also is cheese tends to come slightly into a different category for me. This is something that most people can seem to cope with, even if they are lactose intolerant, because of the way that the cheese is made and the enzymes and so on and so forth. But in an ideal world, we wouldn't consume any of them. But I still consume cheese. I don't eat it every day, but it can work very well. But milk for me is in a different category of its own. It can still cause problems, even A2. And Sylvie knows a little bit more about this than I do, but a mix of A2 and A1 may even be more beneficial than just A2. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sylvie, but that's one that you brought to the table for me.
Yeah, just having the mix of A1 and A2, there's different enzymes in it. So for some people, they do find it more beneficial. It's not a cure-all for everybody, but for some people, they do find it more beneficial. But what I was going to say is that butter needs to be in a separate category as well, because people react differently to butter than they do to cheese, than they do to milk. So it's all on a scale, really, of where your gut permeability is.
Completely well said. I think without doing a masterclass on that, we can't really go into enough detail with the time we got left. But yeah, very solid answers for sure. I think that's all the questions, unless I've missed. Oh, there's
one or two in there.
We'll do this one. It's on the screen.
Is liver necessary for vitamins like vitamin A? Is a good one.
Yeah, I've already answered that one in the chat. Yeah, this question might be useful to get an answer. Sorry, guys, I've got no excuse, but I'm very tired.
Jonathan,
long weekend.
All it is when you talk about ketoacidosis, right? It's literally the fact that you've got high levels of glucose and high levels of ketones. That's the issue, which happens in type 1 diabetics, and that's down to the fact that they don't produce enough insulin, or they've not injected themselves with insulin, or they're in insulin shock because they've injected themselves with insulin, but they haven't controlled their carbohydrates. So yes, the Dutch carnivore is right. It isn't that simple, because we're not talking about blood acidity. We're talking about everything. We're talking about glucose metabolism. We're talking about the fact that insulin is not in the right amount of production for that situation. So I think the Dutch carnivore is sort of looking at it as in just blood pH, but it isn't that. It's everything is increasing, and that's what happens. You get more glucose, you get more ketones, and it's a horrible situation where the cell is getting nothing as well. So there's too many variables there to say it's one thing, because that type 2/1 diabetic could be giving themselves the right amount of insulin and then eat more than they expected. So then they haven't given themselves as much insulin as they need. And then you get into what sort of insulin are they taking? Because you can have what's called R insulin. That's regular insulin. That's the best insulin you can take because it's the closest thing to natural insulin. But that doesn't cut it with the pharmaceutical companies. And then you get into specialized insulin. So you get slow acting, fast acting. The biggest problem is what people don't understand, that these different types of insulin are not done for the benefit of the human. They're done for the benefit of the pharmaceutical company. So, for instance, there's one called PZI or PZI, if you want to. That's how they say it in the States. And that was deliberately done so you didn't have a really big half-life. They just wanted someone, because they didn't think people would inject themselves 3 times. They deliberately did this long-lasting insulin, but they add things to it. The Z is zinc, by the way, just in case if you're interested. Now, this is what was brought about, the idea that you need to eat 6 times a day, because it was around this time when this insulin was introduced that people were putting it into their body, but they were dropping into hypoglycemic events way too much. And it was the insulin that was being produced by the pharmaceutical companies, not the problem of type 1 diabetes, that was the actual issue. So what the big pharma did, as they always do, is, well, how can we get around this problem? Well, let's blame the person and let's make them eat 6 times a day so you don't go into shock. And that's where the 6 meals a day comes from. It actually comes from this introduction of this long-acting insulin and it causing havoc with patients. That was in 1932, right? So we haven't learned much. And it wasn't my idea to have a little rant about it, but that's what happens when you get into the diabetes world. You see that, well, in fact, in 1922, when insulin was discovered, the idea was that the researchers wanted it to be free for everybody. And that, of course, never happened. So it's if you get into the history of insulin, and I recommend that if the Dutch carnivore is really interested in this, you really should get into it. And Gary Taub's latest book is brilliant for going into it. It will shock you, actually, because at no point does it feel like the pharmaceutical companies were trying to help the people with type 1 diabetes. It sounds like they were just trying to make as much money as possible. And every problem that they encountered, they put the onus back on the person. So, yeah, don't think it's just one thing. It isn't just one thing. It's multifactorial. So many things can happen in the body. You know, then you've got the dawn phenomena. So it's just a minefield if you try to reduce it to, is it this one thing? Is it this thing? It's so many different things. Timing, your stress levels as well will make a big difference. Fight or flight or freeze response will have a huge effect on your adrenals, which will therefore put your blood glucose up. That's nothing to do with food, is it? Even exercise can do this, which doesn't mean exercise is bad or food is bad. It just means for a type 1 diabetic, it's something they have to consider. And also the advice for type 1 diabetics, especially those that are elite athletes, is completely and utterly 180 degrees wrong. Because you can get an athlete that's going into a low blood glucose state, and you're supposed to, this is the standard duty of care, stop them exercising to take fast acting carbohydrates. Where in fact, actually, if they was to do some sort of fast explosive movements, they would naturally put their blood glucose up. So yeah, it's a really interesting area, but I think trying to reduce it to just one thing is a bit difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Perfectly well said. I'm so glad I have these guys here to answer these complicated questions with lots of words in them. Ask me a low-hanging fruit question like, I don't know, is the gym good for you? I can give a good answer to that one.
Jonathan, it's not a question, but there's a point on here from Time Traveller Karen who said, pea sticks are easy to use if you want to know if you're in ketosis. Then she says, I can tell by the way I feel.
You can tell by the way you feel, yeah. Yeah, you can. I mean, we're going to do a different question because we've got 7 minutes left and someone's left a super chat. Cool. But yeah, we can maybe elaborate on that next time. So if the person that asked the question could ask it next time, we'll do it then. But it's a good question. But we can talk all about the ketone thing. I've got a short video on it. It's something like Forget About Ketosis. I've posted it a few times. It's about 8 or 9 minutes long. It goes through all the ins and outs of each ketone testing thing. It's on my channel. Have a look if you need that information as soon as possible. Otherwise, we've got a super chat from Cherie, which is $4.99. So much appreciated. The question is, would black diarrhea of black coffee grounds be a cause of concern, or will this go away with strict carnivore? Thank you. I love all the poop questions. We get a lot of them sometimes, but I'll give my very brief thoughts. Anyone else wants to chime in with the time we've got left, feel free. I don't know how much coffee you're having, but if it's a lot of coffee, it could be causing some kind of dye effect in your stool. Outside of that, are you taking any additional supplements? Are you having enough chloride, sodium in your diet to create stomach acid to break down things that are in there which should not be in there, which are naughty? Or the other thing I think of is that your iron intake is higher or beyond what you should be naturally having for your body and what it requires day to day. I know myself, if I take one single multivitamin with iron in it, for some reason I just felt, oh, I need a bit of a boost to cover my bases, which is an absolute fallacy, guys, absolute crap. I'll find I will have a dark stool the next day. It tells me the iron in it is obviously not well absorbed. So supplements, coffee, and are you just eating a ton of liver or something out of the box? But does anyone else have any kind of clue for this one? Because I don't get this kind of thing come up very often.
I've only come across it once. Sorry, Stephen, very quickly. Yeah, I've come across it once. And a guy had black diarrhea and black vomiting at the same time. But that was at, the day after a stag do, and it was a result of 15 pints of Guinness. So I don't... Yeah, so iron may have been a factor, but I think there were other things at play.
Ben and Jerry's
wasn't me.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a compound in coffee called chlorogenic acid, and that is a promoter of stomach acid. So if you have a lot of coffee, you produce a lot more stomach acid. Therefore, everything is super digested, and on its way to the small intestine, it's going to come out as liquid, because it's really broken down, really chewed up by the stomach acid. So, I mean, that's one of the things. It's a bit of a grisly picture Sherry paints there, but what she's doing, she's drinking too much coffee, and then she's adding insult to injury by having a thing that is producing more stomach acid, and therefore, I think, you know, if she's eating as well, it's going to be super dilute by the time it gets in the small intestine.
Yeah, I think you guys have covered that. I've got nothing to add.
Get a stool test. I had one done recently. I've not been in a good state for the last 2 months, if I'm honest. That's why I can't sit on the live streams for very long at all. It's extremely comfortable. I have a golf ball sized lump on my backside, and I've had diarrhea for 2 months, and I have not had a single solid stool, apart from this weekend. And I had a test done, and nothing showing up. Apparently my bowels are absolutely normal, even with the stool sample I sent in, which was like a 8 or a 9. So just get thorough testing, nip it in the bud, you know, quickly. And if you are going to get a test, find the most comprehensive test you can get, in my opinion, anyway. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, look, I agree. When it comes to toilet problems, there are lots of contributing factors, especially the gravitation in towards keto carnivore. The small intestine reabsorbs the bile acids in a healthy state, but when we increase bile production, coming from a state of high carbohydrate intake, the small intestine isn't geared up for doing this. So a lot of the fat ends up into the stool. That doesn't mean it's going to make it discolored, but it can lead to watery stools, especially in the early stages. Coffee, we know, is a big contributing factor. We know that if you drink too much coffee, it performs a laxative effect. But also too much fat in the diet. You know, so you could try reducing or removing the coffee and even reducing the fat potentially.
Can I add something there? Because if right, it's not actual coffee. If it looks like coffee grounds, then that is digested blood. So that is something you do need to go and get checked out. So I think the way you frame the question, Sherry, is it looks like it has black coffee grounds in it. All right. But if it looks like coffee grounds, that is something you do need to get checked out. And I'd get that checked out as soon as possible. Sorry to interrupt, Rich. You know, but you know, that's quite important advice. We've like a minute left to go. But that's nailed on. Don't forget, when I do bloods, I also do urine and stool analysis. So you know, that's pretty much nailed on. If it looks like that, then that's what it is. It's going to be digested blood, which again, as Richard was alluding to, it's going to be a GI tract issue. Doesn't mean it's, you know, super serious. It means something that you need to look and act like it's super serious. I'm not saying it's going to be terrible. You just need to get it checked out.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Solid. Does anyone have any last announcements or anything absolutely imminent to say before we wrap this up?
Yes. If you're interested in brain health at all, please come to Keto Brain Health. Go to ketobrainhealth.co.uk. One-day conference on October the 19th in Manchester, England. And also there are 2 rooms left at Phil's Carnivore Conference in Spain from the 20th to 21st to 25th of October as well. So you go along to thebigfatchallenge.com to sign up to that one.
It's me.
Yeah, fantastic lineup of speakers again there.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait for that. It's going to be absolutely incredible. One not to be missed. And the beauty with this one is that it isn't going to be overly scientific. I mean, it's designed, isn't it, for anyone?
It's designed not to be scientific at all. The whole purpose of this is PHC looks after the science and looks after the medical space, whereas we're looking to help people really get a grounding of everything from fats to medication, etc. We want people to walk away with ideas that actually fat is not bad for you. It's not, ketogenic diet is not a fat diet, and that they have takeaways from every single speaker, that they understood everything said, and that if anyone questions them and tells them they're going to kill themselves, they can categorically say, well, no, actually, I listened to this person talk and they said X, Y, and Z, and I feel very confident that this is the way for me.
Yeah,
So,
and we're even going to get talking about psychiatric meds as well, which is a very tricky subject, because we'll have Dr. Rachel Brown and Ivor Cummins talking about.
Yeah, but Dr. Rachel Brown is a metabolic psychiatrist with 20 years experience as a consultant, and she's the first psychiatrist to focus
metabolic psychiatrist.
Sorry?
First metabolic psychiatrist in this country.
Yes, and she's carnivore herself, and she has gotten people fully off their bipolar meds, and she's coming to speak again from a layperson's terms to give examples of people that have fully cured themselves on a ketogenic way of eating, whether that's ketogenic in general or ketogenic like myself, where I eat a high-fat carnivore diet.
Yeah, I would just add, everyone go over and
Excellent.
subscribe as well. No one's watching her video. Every now and again, I'll watch her, just I'm not the only one that's liking her videos, and so we all need to go over and support her as well on YouTube.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we'll wrap that up there now, guys. If you want to find all of us, you can find us in the pictures on the chat right now. For our different links, we've got Coach Stephen here, theukcarnivore.com, me, Jonathan, Carnival Muscle, aka Consultation Consultant, at consultationconsultant.com. We've got Ben Hunt, the Substack link, which I can't read, but it is on the screen. We've got Sylvie from the Real Food Company, who's been great pleasure joining us tonight. We've got Lee Coppers from Kent Carnivore, the YouTube channel. And we've got the delightful Rachel Smith, the most delightful Welshman I know, Keto Pro, leading UK nutritionist, also chiming me in today for his brilliant insights as per usual. Please join again next week. Thank you very much for the super chats this week. They're always much appreciated. Feel free to spread them out to any one of us on any of our channels, and we'll definitely be checking that out. Anyway, I'm going to roll this now, and hopefully you guys have a good evening.
Introducing Beef Up Carnival Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, it's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available. Get a copy now at